The salvage yards of Nexus Station stretched for miles in every direction. Commander Sarah Chen stood among the crowd of aliens, her hands sweating inside her worn flight gloves. Around her, creatures from 100 different worlds whispered and clicked and hummed in their native languages. Some had 4 arms, others floated in containment bubbles. A few looked almost human, but their eyes were wrong, too many pupils, or colors that didn't exist in nature. Sarah tried to stand tall, but she felt small, so terribly small. The auction hall smelled like recycled air and desperation. Holographic displays floated above each lot number, showing 3-dimensional images of decommissioned warships. These were the leftovers of galactic conflicts, ships that had seen too much battle, vessels that were too expensive to repair, or hulks that nobody wanted anymore. Sarah needed a ship, desperately. Earth's colony fund had taken 20 years to build. Every human settlement across 3 solar systems had contributed. They needed a deep space vessel, something that could carry supplies and people across the vast distances between stars. Without it, humanity's expansion would stop. They would be trapped in their small corner of space while other species claimed the galaxy. But 20 years of saving had only produced 120,000 credits. In the galactic economy, that was pocket change. It was barely enough to buy a decent shuttle, let alone a cruiser. Lot 245, the auctioneer announced. His voice came through Sarah's translator as a flat, emotionless tone. The auctioneer was a Vex, a tall, gray-skinned creature with fingers that moved too quickly to follow. Cordelian scout ship, minimal damage, perfect for mining operations. Starting bid, 200,000 credits. He was Sarah's chief engineer, a man who had spent 15 years keeping Earth's aging space stations functional with duct tape and prayer. His dark eyes scanned the crowd constantly, looking for threats, old habits from his time in the Solar Defense Force. "Commander," Marcus whispered, "maybe we should just go home, build our own ship. It'll take longer, but we need a ship now." He looked terrified, his brown skin pale under the station's harsh lighting. The 4th member of their team leaned against a support pillar, arms crossed. Rosa Martinez had been a Marine before a Krell raid left her with a leg full of shrapnel and a medical discharge. Now she worked private security, and Sarah had hired her for this trip. Rosa's scarred face showed no emotion, but her hand never moved far from the plasma pistol on her hip. Lot 246, the auctioneer continued. Hive-class transport, some biological contamination, sold as is. Starting bid, 175,000 credits. Even the environmental systems seemed to hold their breath. Lot 247, the auctioneer said slowly. His translated voice actually sounded nervous, which Sarah hadn't thought was possible. Krell Imperial Cruiser, designation Endless Horizon, 3 kilometers in length. Former flagship class, manufactured approximately 400 standard years ago. It had the elegant, brutal lines of Krell military design, a massive central hull with 4 curved spires extending like the petals of a deadly flower. The armor plating was dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Weapon ports dotted its surface like stars. "Why is everyone so quiet?" Dev whispered. An alien near them, something that looked like a floating jellyfish, drifted away quickly. Others were leaving too. Within seconds, the crowd around Lot 247's display had thinned dramatically. "The Endless Horizon has had 7 previous owners," the auctioneer explained, his voice flat and careful. "All have met. Unfortunate ends. The Krell Empire sold it 80 years ago after declaring it cursed. The subsequent owners reported system malfunctions, crew disappearances, and other irregularities. The ship has been in impound for the last 15 years. No one has boarded it in that time. A haunted spaceship. Nobody except someone desperate enough not to care about curses. Starting bid," the auctioneer said quietly, 50,000 credits. This was their only chance. "Commander, no," Marcus hissed. "7 owners, all dead or missing. This is a human bidder. 120,000 credits. Do I hear 125,000? Others looked pitiful, like they were watching someone commit suicide. "Going twice. May your gods have mercy." It loomed above them like a metal mountain, its dark hull covered in strange symbols that Sarah didn't recognize. They weren't Krell script. They were older, more elegant. Maintenance lights flickered weakly along its lower sections, but most of the ship was dark. Dead. "We just spent humanity's entire savings on a ghost ship," Marcus said quietly. "Do you know what they'll do to us if this doesn't work?" He was staring at the symbols on the hull, his lips moving silently as he tried to translate them. Sarah took a deep breath and started walking toward the boarding ramp. "Then we'd better make it work." As they climbed aboard, emergency lighting flickered on above them. Dim red lights that cast long shadows. "Wait," Marcus said, stopping suddenly. "These lights shouldn't be on. The ship's been powered down for 15 years. There shouldn't be any active systems." The interior was massive, hallways wide enough to drive a truck through, ceilings that disappeared into darkness above. Their footsteps echoed strangely, as if the ship was breathing around them. The command center was on the bridge, 12 levels up. When they finally reached it, Sarah understood why no one had wanted this ship. The bridge was wrong. Krell ships were functional and brutal, all sharp angles and military efficiency. But this bridge had curves where there shouldn't be curves. The control panels displayed symbols in languages that Dev didn't recognize. And in the center of it all, suspended in a column of dead holographic projectors, was an AI core. It was active. The core pulsed with faint blue light like a heartbeat. As they approached, sounds began to echo through the bridge, whispers in hundreds of languages, some familiar, most completely alien. The words overlapped and blended together into a chorus of the dead. That's impossible," Dev breathed. "Some of these languages have been dead for thousands of years. How does the AI even know them?" "But Commander," he looked up at Sarah with wide eyes, "there's another power signature, much stronger. It's coming from the lower decks, from the cargo holds." The corridors grew narrower here, more claustrophobic. The whispers from the AI followed them, growing louder. Sarah could almost make out words, but they slipped away before she could understand them. The cargo hold was massive, a chamber the size of an aircraft hangar. And in its center, surrounded by dead machinery and broken crates, stood a single sealed chamber. It was beautiful, made of some kind of crystalline metal that caught the emergency lights and scattered them like a prism. The design was elegant, organic, nothing like the harsh Krell architecture around it, and through the translucent surface they could see a figure inside, a human figure. "No," Dev whispered. He ran forward, pulling out every scanner he had. The devices went crazy in his hands, screens filling with data. "No, this can't be right." "But the carbon dating, the cellular degradation patterns." He looked up at her, his face white with shock. "This person has been in stasis for 50,000 years." Humanity had only reached space 300 years ago. They had barely left their solar system 200 years before that. The species itself was only estimated to be 200,000 years old. This was impossible. "There's more," Marcus said quietly. He was looking at the chamber's control panel. "This isn't Krell technology, it's something else, something older. And Commander," he pointed at a small display that had lit up when they approached, "I think it's waiting for us. I think it wants to be opened." Symbols flowed across the screen, beautiful, elegant writing that reminded her of ancient Earth languages but wasn't quite any of them. Then the symbols changed to English. 3 words appeared on the screen: "Revival sequence authorized." But it was too late. The chamber was already opening. Mist poured out, cold and white, filling the cargo hold with freezing air. The figure inside stirred, and Sarah heard a sound that would haunt her forever, a woman's voice, screaming in a language that sounded like music and thunder combined. The woman convulsed, her eyes snapping open. They were pure silver without pupils or irises, like mirrors reflecting everything and nothing. She tried to speak, but the words that came out made no sense. They were old, so impossibly old, like the first words ever spoken by human lips. Dev was crying. Sarah didn't understand why until he spoke. "That's Proto-Indo-European," Dev whispered in awe, "the theoretical ancestor language of half of Earth's tongues, but it's been dead for 7,000 years. No one speaks it anymore. No one should be able to speak it." When she spoke next, her voice was clearer. "Did it work?" the woman asked in heavily accented but understandable English. "Did the seeding work? Did you survive?" Rosa caught her before she hit the ground. Up close, Sarah could see that she looked completely human, dark skin, black hair with gray streaks, laugh lines around her eyes. She could be anyone's grandmother. "My name is Arya," the woman said weakly. "And I've been waiting 50,000 years for humanity to find me." She grabbed Sarah's arm with surprising strength. "Please, you have to tell me. Did we do it? Did we save them? Did we save Earth?" "Earth doesn't need saving. And if I'm awake now, it means the countdown has started again." She pulled herself up, using Sarah for support, and spoke words that would change everything. "Humanity didn't evolve on Earth," Arya said. "We put you there. We seeded you. And the thing we were running from when we did it, the thing that destroyed our entire civilization 50,000 years ago, it's coming back." The cargo hold fell silent except for the distant whispers of the broken AI, now suddenly sounding less like madness and more like a warning that had been playing for 50,000 years, waiting for someone to finally listen. The medical bay of the endless horizon hummed to life for the first time in 15 years. Sarah watched as Marcus and Dev worked frantically to stabilize Arya, the woman who claimed to be 50,000 years old. The equipment was Krell design, but Arya had shown them modifications, adjustments that made the ancient machines work better, smoother, as if she had built them herself. Rosa stood guard at the door, her weapon ready. She didn't trust Arya. Sarah couldn't blame her. "Her vitals are stabilizing," Marcus reported, checking the holographic displays. "But Commander, this doesn't make sense. Her cells are regenerating at an impossible rate. It's like her body is repairing 50,000 years of damage in hours." "So beautifully, wonderfully young. We did it. We actually did it." "And what did you mean about Earth being our second chance?" "The ship's archive, it still has the records. Take me to the command center." The broken AI that had been whispering stopped suddenly, as if recognizing its master. "Hello, old friend," Arya said softly to the AI core. "I'm sorry I left you alone for so long." Holographic displays exploded into existence around them, showing star maps that Sarah didn't recognize. The constellations were wrong, the positions of galaxies different. Dev gasped, his scientific mind immediately understanding. "These maps are ancient," Dev breathed. "The stars have moved. This is the galaxy as it looked 50,000 years ago." They never understood what they had. She touched another panel and the hologram shifted, showing a civilization. A human civilization. Cities that stretched across entire planets. Ships that made the horizon look like a toy. Technology so advanced it looked like magic. And everywhere humans, millions, billions of them, spread across thousands of worlds. "We were called the architects," Arya explained. "We were the first species in this galaxy to reach the stars. We had 10,000 years of peace, of growth, of wonder. We thought we had conquered the universe. Then our scientists discovered it," Arya continued, her voice hollow. "The cascade, a universal reset event. We don't know what causes it, some kind of quantum correction, a balancing of reality itself. But every 50 to 60,000 years it happens. Reality blinks. Everything with advanced technology, Everything that has disturbed the natural quantum field too much gets erased. Billions of humans dying in an instant, their screams silent in the vacuum of space. Sarah felt sick. How did you survive? So we created a plan, the seeding protocol. We encoded our DNA into the native species on 1,000 worlds, Arya explained. We accelerated their evolution, guided them gently toward intelligence. We gave them our genetic memory, locked deep in their cells, waiting to activate when they were ready. Earth was seed world 247. We placed modified humans there, humans who would forget their origins and start fresh. That were not really native to our planet. Memories that can be awakened under the right conditions. We built ships like the Horizon and placed them throughout the galaxy. When the seeded species developed spaceflight, the ships would activate, guiding them to our hidden archives, teaching them what they needed to know. But this ship was damaged during the cascade. I was in emergency stasis when it happened. The ship drifted for 50,000 years until the Krell found it. By then, the AI was corrupted, and I was trapped in a damaged pod, neither dead nor truly alive. Until you found me, Arya agreed. Which means humanity has reached space, which means the seeding worked, which means her face went pale. Oh no, the activation. When you opened my pod, it sent a signal. It activated the countdown protocols. Countdown to what? Even the ship's ambient noise seemed to stop. 18 months until what? Sarah asked, though she already knew the answer. Until everything dies, Arya said flatly. Not just humanity, not just advanced species, everything. Every civilization in this galaxy will be erased. The Krell, the Vex, the Confederation, the Council worlds, all of them will simply cease to exist, unless... This one showed locations scattered across the galaxy, glowing points of light hidden on distant worlds and in deep space. The archive sites. The architects hid their technology in protected vaults across the galaxy. Technology that can create a reality anchor, a device that stabilizes the quantum field and prevents the cascade. But the technology is scattered. We need to visit multiple archive sites to gather all the pieces. But they're hidden, protected by security systems that will kill anyone who isn't architect authorized. And they're scattered across territory controlled by different alien species. Some of them are in places no human ship has ever gone. The moment other species learn what's happening, they'll fight us for control. The technology to build a reality anchor is also the technology to weaponize spacetime itself. In the wrong hands, it could destroy planets, erase entire species from history. The architects were careful to ensure only worthy species could access it. How are we supposed to convince anyone that we're worthy of saving the universe? Whether they believe in us or not. 3 ships had just dropped out of slipspace nearby, large ships, military vessels with Krell Imperial markings. They found us, Rosa said, already moving toward the weapons console. The communication system crackled to life. A harsh, clicking voice filled the bridge Krell language, translated by the ship's AI. Human vessel Endless Horizon, you are in possession of stolen Krell property. Power down your systems and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will be met with destruction. Can this ship fight? And Commander, if we fight the Krell Empire, we make enemies of one of the galaxy's most powerful militaries. Humanity will be marked as criminals. Might as well complete the set. She turned to Marcus. Get the engines ready for a jump, any jump. I don't care where, just away from here. It'll take 10 minutes to warm them up. She moved to the weapons console, her hands remembering controls that had been silent for longer than human civilization had existed. The ship shuddered as power flowed into long-dead systems. On the view screen, the 3 Krell ships were moving into attack formation. Commander, they're charging weapons, Rosa reported. Plasma cannons, mass drivers, and something I don't recognize. Probably some new Krell tech. 8 minutes. Stand down. Plasma bolts screamed through space toward the horizon. Sarah gripped the armrests of her chair, waiting for impact, waiting for death. But the ship moved. The horizon rolled gracefully, its massive bulk somehow as nimble as a fighter craft. The plasma bolts missed by meters. Ancient point defense systems came online, targeting the incoming fire with precise countershots. Impossible, Marcus breathed. The ship is defending itself automatically. But the shields are weak, and we can't take many hits. Alarms blared. Hull breach on Deck 12, Dev reported. Emergency bulkheads are sealing. It's old architect plasma technology, much more advanced than Krell weapons. But Commander, if I fire this, every species in the galaxy will know this ship has architect technology. They'll all come hunting for us. Fire. The beam punched through the ship's hull like paper, cutting it cleanly in half. Explosions bloomed across the dying vessel. The other two Krell ships immediately backed away, their weapons powering down in shock. Message from the Krell commander, Dev said, his voice shaking. He's requesting a ceasefire. He wants to negotiate. Marcus, how long? Different designs. They're surrounding us. A new voice came through the communications system. This one spoke perfect English. Commander Sarah Chen of Earth. This is Keeper Prime of the Confluence. You have activated architect technology. By ancient treaty, all such technology belongs to the Confluence. You will surrender the ship and the ancient you have awakened. This is not a request. They believe they're entitled to our technology. They're dangerous, Commander, far more dangerous than the Krell. The Confluence fleet was moving closer. The two remaining Krell ships were retreating rapidly, clearly wanting no part of what was coming. 30 seconds, Marcus said. Sarah's mind raced. They were surrounded. The jump drive was almost ready, but where would they go? The Confluence could track them. They had nowhere to hide. Commander, Arya said quietly, there is one option, but it's dangerous. It's a graveyard, the remains of architect cities destroyed during the Cascade. The Confluence won't follow us there. No one goes to the Shroud. The automated defense systems are still active. They kill anything that enters. The Confluence ships were powering weapons. Do it, Sarah ordered. Jump to the Shroud. The last thing Sarah saw before the universe turned inside out was the Confluence fleet firing, their weapons tearing through the space where the horizon had been just a moment before. Then everything went white. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, ancient machines stirred, sensing intruders in their graveyard domain. The architect's final defenses were waking up. The endless horizon screamed out of slipspace and into chaos. Sarah was thrown against her restraints as the ship shook violently. Alarms blared from every console. Through the viewscreen, she saw something that made her breath catch in her throat. The Shroud was beautiful and terrifying. It was a nebula the size of a solar system, glowing with colors that shouldn't exist, purples that hurt to look at, greens that seemed to shift and change, blues so deep they looked like holes in space. And floating throughout the nebula were the remains of an empire. Entire cities drifted in the void, frozen in time. Massive structures that must have housed millions, now silent tombs covered in frost and cosmic dust. Ships larger than moons hung motionless, their hulls broken open like crushed eggs. And everywhere debris, so much debris that it looked like a river of metal and stone flowing through space. The architect homeworlds, Arya whispered, tears streaming down her face. I never thought I'd see them again, even like this. Commander, the radiation levels here are off the charts. And there's something else, massive power signatures scattered throughout the debris field. They're dormant, but they're still active after 50,000 years. We built it to protect the homeworlds during the Cascade. It didn't work. Nothing worked. But the weapons are still here, still waiting to defend cities full of ghosts. They're right behind us. It's a death trap. Why would they follow us here? But something strange happened. The bolts slowed down, their energy bleeding away into the nebula itself. They hit the horizon's shields at half power, barely causing damage. "The nebula is interfering with their weapons," Marcus reported, surprise in his voice. "The exotic radiation is disrupting the plasma cohesion." Her fingers moved across controls she hadn't touched in 50,000 years, muscle memory guiding her. "Archive Site Theta-9. It's hidden inside a collapsed star, a brown dwarf at the center of the nebula. The gravity well is extreme, but the horizon's shields can handle it." Barely. Behind them, the Krell ships pursued, firing continuously. But their shots grew weaker as the nebula's interference increased. Then the defense grid woke up. Dev saw it first on his sensors. "Commander, multiple power spikes. The defense systems are activating." The platforms didn't care that the architects were long dead. They had one purpose: destroy intruders. "Evasive maneuvers," Sarah shouted. Marcus threw the ship into a wild spiral as beams of coherent light sliced through space where they'd been seconds before. The architect weapons were terrifyingly accurate, tracking the horizon with machine precision. But the Krell ships had it worse. The defense platforms saw them as targets too. A dozen weapons opened fire simultaneously. The first Krell ship tried to dodge, but it was too slow. 3 beams converged on it, punching through its shields like they didn't exist. The ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light. "One Krell ship down," Rosa reported. "The other is breaking off pursuit. They're trying to retreat." She was right. The Krell ship reversed course, racing back toward the nebula's edge. But more defense platforms were waking up, creating a wall of fire between the ship and safety. The Krell captain was good. Sarah had to give them that. They dodged and weaved, their ship dancing through the deadly grid. But nobody was that good. A final shot caught the Krell ship's engines. The vessel spun out of control, crashing into one of the massive floating cities. The impact sent debris flying in all directions. Secondary explosions rippled through the wreckage. Then silence. The defense grid powered down as suddenly as it had activated, its targets eliminated. The weapons platforms returned to their dormant state, waiting for the next intruder. Sarah let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. "Status report. If we make one wrong move, they'll target us too. I can transmit my ID code, but it's 50,000 years old. The system might not recognize it anymore. Or worse, it might think I'm an enemy pretending to be an architect." Dev was terrified but trying to hide it. Marcus was focused on keeping the ship running. Rosa looked ready for anything. They had come so far, risked so much. They couldn't turn back now. "Do it," Sarah ordered. "Transmit the code." "They're locking on," Dev shouted, but the platforms didn't fire. Instead, a message appeared on every screen in the bridge. Ancient architect script glowing in soft blue light. "What does it say?" Sarah demanded. Arya was crying again, but this time she was smiling. "It says, 'Welcome home, Keeper. The archive awaits.'" At the end of that corridor, Sarah could see it, a brown dwarf star glowing with dark red light. "They're guiding us," Marcus breathed. "The defense grid is helping us. The system is treating me like returning royalty." She saw homes with personal belongings floating in the darkness, toys, books, photographs captured in ice. These weren't just ruins, they were memories, an entire civilization frozen at the moment of its death. "How many died?" Dev asked quietly. 43 billion, Arya said. "Across 200 worlds, all in a single day. The cascade didn't give us time to evacuate. It didn't give us time to say goodbye." "Marcus, can we really survive flying into that?" The hull temperature began to rise as they entered the star's outer atmosphere. Through the view screen, everything turned dark red like flying through blood. "There," Arya pointed at the navigation display. "The archive is embedded in the star's core. The gravity well protects it. Nothing can reach it without architect-grade shields." For a moment she was certain they would be crushed. Then they broke through. The star's core was hollow. It wasn't natural, couldn't be natural. The architects had somehow carved out a spherical chamber inside the brown dwarf, held open by some kind of force field that defied everything Sarah knew about physics. And inside that chamber floated a structure. Archive Site Theta-9 was a city unto itself. Towers of crystalline metal reached toward the center of the sphere. Gardens grew in defiance of logic, fed by artificial sunlight. And at the heart of it all stood a massive data vault, a pyramid of pure white material that seemed to glow from within. "It's beautiful," Dev whispered. Arya guided them to a landing platform. The moment the horizon touched down, the platform activated, extending docking clamps and connecting umbilicals. Lights came on throughout the archive, systems that had slept for 50,000 years waking at the touch of an architect. "The archive is still functional," Arya said in wonder. "Everything we saved, everything we knew, it's all still here." The data vault's entrance opened at Arya's approach. Inside, holographic displays filled the chamber, showing information in formats Sarah couldn't begin to understand. But some of it was clear: schematics, blueprints, mathematical formulas. "The reality anchor technology," Arya said, pulling up specific files. "The principles, the materials, the construction methods, it's all here. The energy calculations alone are centuries beyond anything humans have achieved. And there's more: medical technology, manufacturing processes, AI algorithms that make our best computers look like toys." He was at a different console, his face pale. "Commander, you need to see this." "The architects built these?" Sarah asked. "We had to," Arya said quietly. "When we discovered the cascade was coming, some of our people thought we could fight it. They built weapons that could manipulate spacetime itself. They thought they could punch through to other dimensions, escape to realities where the cascade didn't exist. That's why we abandoned them and focused on the seeding instead." Arya looked at Sarah seriously. "Commander, if the Galactic Council learns these weapons exist, they'll tear each other apart trying to get them. The technology in this archive could start a war that makes the cascade look peaceful." About the Krell, the Confluence, and dozens of other civilizations all fighting for control of architect secrets. "We can't let that happen," Sarah said. "We take only what we need for the reality anchor. The weapons stay here. The moment they find out about this place, they'll demand access, and if we refuse, they'll take it by force. We have a problem. The download is incomplete. The reality anchor requires components from multiple archives. This site only has about 20% of what we need. I can guide us to the nearest archives, but each one will be more dangerous than this. Some are in Confluence territory. Others are in regions of space no one has explored in thousands of years. 17 months and 3 weeks now. And now they had to save the galaxy, whether the galaxy wanted to be saved or not. "Then we'd better get started," Sarah said. But as they prepared to leave, the horizon sensors detected something. Ships entering the shroud. Lots of ships. "The Confluence followed us," Rosa said, checking the tactical display. 20 vessels. They're navigating the debris field heading straight for us." When we activated it, it sent out a signal, a beacon to let other architects know it was in use. The Confluence must have sensors that can detect architect transmissions. "We have to reach the nebula's edge first. The grid can't target through this much mass. We're not giving up the archive data." And behind them, descending into the same gravity well, came the Confluence fleet. The race was on, and the loser wouldn't just die, they'd be crushed into atomic paste by the gravity of a dying star. Sarah gripped her chair's armrests and prepared for the fight of her life. The galaxy's future depended on the next few minutes. The endless horizon clawed its way out of the brown dwarf's gravity well, every meter gained through sheer force of will and ancient engineering. Sarah watched the structural integrity readings drop steadily, 70%, 65, 60. The ship was tearing itself apart. "We're not going to make it," Marcus said through gritted teeth, his hands flying across the engineering console. "The hull can't take much more stress." Arya was at the weapons console, her ancient fingers remembering the deadly dance of architect warfare. "The gravity, well, weakens their shields too. If we can hit them now, while they're still deep in the star's pull, we might take out a few." 3 shots fired simultaneously, lances of concentrated plasma that cut through the red haze of the brown dwarf's atmosphere. 2 confluence ships exploded instantly. A third took a glancing hit and spiraled out of control, pulled deeper into the star's crushing embrace. 17 ships remaining, Rosa reported. "They're spreading out trying to surround us." The moment they escaped the brown dwarf's pull, they'd be vulnerable. The confluence would swarm them. They needed an advantage, something the enemy wouldn't expect. "Arya, are there any other archive sites nearby? Somewhere we can jump to immediately?" "They don't let anyone into their space. They've destroyed entire fleets for trespassing. But if we jump to Wanderer territory, maybe they'll hesitate." "Marcus, prepare the slipspace drive." The horizon shuddered as the drive spun up, creating a tear in reality while still fighting the brown dwarf's immense gravity. The confluence ships sensed what was happening. They abandoned their cautious approach and dove toward the horizon, weapons firing desperately. Energy bolts slammed into the shields, each hit draining power from the jump drive. "We need 30 more seconds," Marcus shouted. "We don't have 30 seconds." Rosa fired the point defense systems, targeting the incoming fire. Explosions blossomed around the ship. 20 seconds. A confluence ship rammed them. The impact sent everyone sprawling. Alarms screamed. Somewhere deep in the ship, Sarah heard the groan of buckling metal. "Hull breach on decks 9 through 12, Dev reported. "Emergency bulkheads holding." More ships were ramming them now, sacrificing themselves to stop the jump. The confluence wanted the archive data more than they wanted to live. 40% hull integrity, critical damage to port engines. The ancient woman met her eyes, and in that moment, Sarah saw 50,000 years of loss and determination. "We're going to make it," Arya said firmly. "The architects didn't survive extinction just to die now." Reality tore open, and the endless horizon fell through the wound in space. They emerged in the Tertius system, and Sarah immediately knew they'd made a terrible mistake. The system was beautiful, 3 Earth-like planets orbiting a yellow sun, surrounded by a massive ring of biodomes and habitat stations. But everywhere she looked, there were ships, thousands of ships. This wasn't just Wanderer territory. It was a Wanderer capital system. "Oh no," Dev whispered. Before Sarah could give an order, every weapons platform in the system locked onto them. The communication console exploded with incoming messages, all demanding the same thing: identify yourself or be destroyed. "Get me a channel," Sarah ordered. "All frequencies. We are pursued by hostile forces and request emergency shelter." "Commander Sarah Chen of Earth. We are Kev, voice of the Wanderer Collective. You bring an architect vessel into our sacred space. You carry technology that belongs to the dead. Explain why we should not destroy you." "Because in 17 months and 2 weeks, the cascade will reset this galaxy. Everything will die unless we gather the technology to stop it. We're not here to threaten you. We're here to save you." Knowledge that was lost for 50 millennia. How does a human know of this? "All architects died in the cascade." "You truly are architect. And we need components for the reality anchor. And now you are here. We wish to ensure it never happens again." But what choice did they have? Arya was still weak from the stasis, showing signs of cellular degradation. The medical technology in Archive Omega-2 could save her, and they needed more components for the anchor. "Agreed," Sarah said, "but we share the technology with everyone. Not just the Wanderers. If we're going to save the galaxy, we do it together." But know this, Confluence vessels have entered our system. They are demanding we surrender you. The Wanderers value sanctuary law, but we value peace more. You have 1 hour to complete your business and leave." A moment later, 3 sleek Wanderer ships appeared on their sensors, moving into escort formation. 1 hour, Marcus said, and the Confluence is already here. They must have jumped in right after us. Dev, Rosa, you too. Marcus, keep the ship ready for immediate departure. Just get us ready to fly. Archive Omega-2 was hidden inside one of the system's 3 planets, buried deep beneath an ocean. The Wanderer ships guided them to a massive underwater entrance, and the horizon descended into the depths. As they traveled down, Dev noticed something odd about the planet. "Commander, these readings don't make sense. This world structure is too perfect. The continents are mathematically precise. The ocean currents flow in patterns that couldn't occur naturally. This entire planet is an engineered organism, designed to protect the knowledge inside. An underwater city, perfectly preserved, filled with buildings that looked grown rather than built. Bioluminescent lights powered by some form of organic technology illuminated streets where no one had walked for 50,000 years. It's beautiful," Rosa breathed. They made their way to the central structure, a medical facility that was part hospital, part research center, part art gallery. The architects, Sarah realized, had never separated science from beauty. Everything they built was functional and gorgeous in equal measure. Arya led them to the medical archives. The technology here was astounding. Devices that could repair DNA, regrow organs, even restore memories lost to brain damage. Dev downloaded everything, his eyes wide with wonder. "This technology could cure every disease humanity knows," Dev said. "Cancer, genetic disorders, aging itself. The architects had beaten death." She was connecting herself to one of the medical devices, allowing it to scan and repair her failing body. "Technology can't save you from everything. That's a lesson we learned too late." Sarah watched as the woman's complexion improved, color returning to her face, the lines of pain smoothing away. But something was happening. Arya's eyes began to glow with that silver light again, and when she spoke, her voice had changed, becoming deeper, older. "The awakening protocol is activating," Arya said. "Commander Chen, I can offer you something. The architect genetic memory, it exists in all humans. I can awaken it in your crew. Give you knowledge that would take lifetimes to learn, engineering secrets, scientific principles, tactical expertise. They lose themselves. Marcus is good, but he can't learn 50,000 years of technology in 17 months. Rosa's eyes went wide. She gasped, then screamed. Sarah moved to help her, but Arya held up a hand. "Don't interrupt. The awakening must complete or it will kill her." When she spoke, words in a dozen dead languages poured out. She was remembering, experiencing lifetimes in seconds. Then it stopped. Rosa collapsed, breathing hard. When she looked up, her eyes had changed. Still brown, but with a silver shimmer deep inside like stars in the distance. "I remember," Rosa whispered. "I remember building the way stations. I remember the day the cascade came. I watched my children die, Commander. I watched them burn and I couldn't save them." When she walked to the engineering console and began working, her hands flew across the controls with perfect familiarity. She was reading architect script as easily as English. "The medical archive has what we need," Rosa said, her voice steady despite the tears still on her face. "But Commander, there's something else here. Weapons. Prototype designs the architects abandoned. They're dangerous, unstable. But if we're going to fight the Confluence, we might need them. The Confluence fleet is demanding entry to the archive. They have 40 ships now. We cannot hold them much longer. We leave the weapons. It won't work. We'll find another way. Commander, Confluence ships are breaking through the Wanderer blockade. We have maybe 10 minutes before they reach the archive. We need to go now. We're leaving. The Wanderer ships moved to intercept, creating a protective screen, but they were outnumbered. The Confluence was willing to start a war to get the Architect technology. Jump, Sarah ordered. Marcus didn't hesitate. The Horizon tore open space and fled. But as they jumped, Sarah saw something on the sensors that made her blood run cold. The Confluence hadn't just followed them to Wanderer space. They'd brought their entire fleet, hundreds of ships, all converging on their location. And worse, the Galactic Council had sent a transmission. They'd learned about the Architect technology. They were demanding Sarah surrender the ship. Humanity's greatest discovery had just made them the galaxy's most wanted criminals. And they still had 3 more archives to find before the Cascade arrived. The countdown read, 16 months, 27 days. Time was running out. The endless horizon limped through space, its hull held together by emergency repairs and desperate hope. Sarah stood on the bridge staring at the star map that showed their impossible task. 3 more archive sites, 16 months, and half the galaxy hunting them. Status report, she said quietly. Marcus looked exhausted, his eyes red from 72 hours without sleep. The hull is at 28% integrity. We're burning through power reserves, and the jump drive is showing critical stress fractures. Commander, we have maybe 3 more jumps before the whole system fails. We'll make it work. Commander, I've been analyzing the data we've collected. The reality anchor requires 5 specific components. We have 2. The remaining 3 are scattered across the most dangerous regions of space. Archive Delta 7 is in the void, that region of dead space where no stars exist. Nothing lives there. Ships that enter don't come back. Archive Sigma 12 is inside a black hole's accretion disk. And the Prime Archive, he paused, its phase shifted out of normal time. It exists 0.3 seconds in the future. We'd need to time-lock the horizon just to reach it. The Prime Archive contains the anchor's core. Without it, everything else is useless. We've become quite popular, Rosa said dryly. They're afraid, Arya explained. The Galactic Council, the Confluence, the Krell, they've all seen what Architect technology can do. They don't want humanity to have it. And they're terrified of what happens if we succeed. Turn it on and off, threatening species into submission. That's not who we are. Its face shifted constantly, never settling on one appearance. Kev, Sarah's hand moved to her weapon. How did you board my ship? We needed to speak with you privately, away from the eyes of the Council and Confluence. The figure stepped forward. Commander Chen, the Wanderers have decided to help you, but we require something in return. We require a promise. Kev's shifting face somehow conveyed deadly seriousness. When you build the anchor, when you merge a consciousness with it, you must choose someone who will not abuse that power. The anchor doesn't just prevent the cascade. It can manipulate reality itself, reshape matter, alter time. In the wrong hands, it becomes the ultimate weapon. Some of them wanted to use the anchor technology to fight the cascade with force. Others wanted to accept death peacefully. The disagreement tore their civilization apart before the cascade even arrived. You must not repeat their mistake. I've told the commander I will merge with the anchor. I've already lived my life. This contains information about the Architect Civil War, about what happens when a species gains the power to control reality. Study it. Learn from our mistakes, for the Wanderers are descendants of Architect colonies that survived the cascade. We know this history intimately. The seeding protocol didn't just create humanity on Earth. It created dozens of species across the galaxy. We are all your cousins, Commander, all children of the same parents. They suspect, but without proof it remains a theory. Kev moved toward the door. We will help you reach the remaining archives. Wanderer ships will run interference against the Confluence. But hurry, Commander. 16 months seems like a long time, but it will vanish like smoke. The void was exactly as terrible as advertised. It was a region of space where the stars had been stripped away by some ancient cataclysm. No light, no radiation, just pure, absolute darkness stretching for light years in every direction. The horizon traveled through it blind, sensors useless, navigation based purely on Arya's memory of where the archive had been built 50,000 years ago. "This is insane," Marcus muttered. "We can't see anything. There could be planets right in front of us, and we wouldn't know until we hit them." They didn't want anyone finding it by accident. Then Rosa, with her awakened architect knowledge, made a discovery. There's a navigation beacon, ancient, barely functioning, but it's there, hidden in subspace frequencies. It was a ship, a vessel even larger than the horizon, drifting dead in the void. As they approached, external lights activated, bathing the ancient ship in cold blue illumination. "The weapons archive," Arya whispered. "I never thought I'd see it again." Missiles that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "We're not taking any of this," Sarah said firmly. "We don't need to," Rosa replied. She was at a console downloading data. "The component we need isn't a weapon. It's a quantum stabilizer, part of the anchor's foundation. Without it, the anchor can't lock onto this reality." The temptation to take just one for protection, for security. Sarah understood why the architects had destroyed themselves. Power like this corrupted by its mere existence. They left the void archive behind, taking only what they needed. But Sarah noticed Rosa had hesitated at one weapon display, a device labeled Temporal Disruptor in architect script. The awakened memories in her head knew what it could do. "Don't even think about it," Sarah said quietly. Rosa nodded, but her eyes lingered on the weapon as they left. Archive Sigma-12 nearly killed them. The accretion disk of a black hole was a maelstrom of superheated plasma and crushing gravitational forces. The horizon screamed in protest as they descended into it, hull temperature rising to critical levels. 20% integrity," Marcus shouted over the alarms. "We're not going to make it." The archive was embedded in a chunk of neutronium, matter so dense that a teaspoon would weigh billions of tons. Somehow, impossibly, it had survived the black hole's pull for 50 millennia. Rosa spacewalked to the archive, her suit reinforced with architect technology. She was out there for 27 minutes during which Sarah was certain she'd lost her. But Rosa returned with the component, a crystalline structure that hummed with barely contained energy. "2 more pieces," Rosa said, her voice shaking. "The cascade frequency modulator and the anchor core itself. After we enter, we won't be able to leave the same way. We'll be trapped in that pocket of frozen time. A place where the last architects could wait out the cascade in safety. It was never meant to be left." Marcus, exhausted and afraid but still loyal. Dev, young and terrified but brilliant. Rosa, transformed by ancient knowledge, struggling with memories of a life that wasn't hers. And Arya, carrying the guilt of an entire civilization's death. "Then we go together," Sarah said. "We build the anchor, we save the galaxy, and we find a way home." The jump to the Prime Archive was the most terrifying experience of Sarah's life. The horizon phased through reality itself, slipping sideways through time. For a moment that lasted forever, Sarah experienced everything simultaneously. Her birth, her death, every choice she'd ever made and never made, all existing at once. Then they were through. The Prime Archive existed in a bubble of frozen time, everything around them locked at a single moment. 3:47:23 p.m. 50,000 years ago. The exact instant before the cascade hit. It was a city, an entire architect's city perfectly preserved. Millions of buildings, gardens, homes, and in the center the last architect refuge. They found survivors, not alive but not quite dead either. hundreds of architects in stasis, waiting for rescue that never came. Arya broke down seeing them, her people, her civilization, frozen at the moment of their extinction. And in the central tower they found it, the anchor core. It was beautiful, a sphere of impossible geometry that hurt to look at directly. The culmination of 50,000 years of preparation, waiting for someone brave enough to use it. But there was a problem. "Commander," Dev said, his scanners showing impossible readings. "The cascade, it's not in 16 months. The timeline's accelerated. Whatever we've been doing, activating the archives, using architect technology, we've been destabilizing the quantum field. We have 72 hours before reality resets." They had all the pieces, the technology, the knowledge, everything they needed to save the galaxy except time. "We build it now," Sarah ordered. "We have 3 days, we make them count." Rosa's awakened knowledge guided them, her hands building technology that shouldn't exist. Marcus kept the power flowing, burning through the ship's reserves. Dev calculated quantum corrections, making sure every component aligned perfectly. And Arya prepared the merge protocols, the process that would fuse a human consciousness with the anchor forever. With 1 hour remaining, they activated it. The anchor came alive, a sphere of pure light expanding from the prime archive. Sarah could feel it reaching across the galaxy, touching every planet, every star, every living thing. "It's working," Dev breathed. "The quantum field is stabilizing, but Commander, it needs a consciousness. Now." "I've been thinking about what Keth said, about choosing someone who won't abuse this power. Arya, you've suffered enough, you've given enough. Let me." The radiation exposure from all those archive dives, Dev's medical scans confirmed it. "I have weeks, maybe days. This way, my death means something. Make sure we don't repeat the architect's mistakes." She saw her grandmother as a child in India. She saw Dev growing old, becoming the galaxy's greatest scientist. She saw Rosa teaching the next generation of engineers. She saw Marcus retiring, finally at peace. She saw humanity spreading across the stars, not as conquerors but as guardians, teachers, friends to the thousands of species that shared this galaxy. The cascade reached them. Reality began to blink out, the universe preparing to reset. But Sarah held it together through sheer will, her consciousness merged with the anchor, processing billions of quantum corrections per second. She felt herself stretching, becoming more than human, becoming something new. The cascade stopped. Reality stabilized. The countdown froze at 000001, permanently suspended. Across the galaxy, every species stopped what they were doing. They felt the change, the subtle shift that told them reality was no longer temporary. The universe had been saved. 3 months later, the Galactic Council held an emergency session. Arya stood before them, representing humanity. Behind her stood Marcus, Dev, and Rosa, the crew of the Endless Horizon, now heroes despite themselves. The council leader, an ancient Vex diplomat, spoke solemnly. "The human commander, Sarah Chen, sacrificed herself to save us all. Humanity has proven itself worthy of architect technology. The Council grants Earth full membership and access to all archive sites. We're sharing everything, every species, every world. The architect's knowledge belongs to everyone." Later, Rosa stood alone on the Horizon's bridge. The ship was a memorial now, touring the galaxy, teaching about the architects and the cascade. She could feel Sarah in the anchor, a warm presence at the edge of her awareness. Sometimes, late at night, she thought she could hear Sarah's voice, whispering encouragement. "We did it," Rosa said quietly to the empty air. "We saved them all." She had become eternal, the anchor holding reality together through love and will and sacrifice. She saw humanity's future, bright and endless, full of possibilities. The galaxy would never be the same, and for the first time in 50,000 years, it was truly safe. The Endless Horizon sailed on, carrying hope to the stars. and Commander Sarah Chen, now and forever, watched over them all.